All right, thank you everyone. Welcome. My name is Katie Bishop, and I'm the Chief Student Success Officer here at Augsburg. And thank you so much for the invitation to spend 15 minutes chatting with you about the experience of poverty of students at Augsburg. I just want to say quickly that 2 weeks ago, Tim came into my office and said, Joaquin did the first one of these, and he was fabulous. So because we want people to come to number 3. So if you could all come back for number 3, whether you appreciated this or not, that would really help me out. So, that would just get me off the hook. So I'm the Chief Student Success Officer, and that means that I think about the strategic priorities around how we support students on their path to graduation, and how we think about our structures and our resources in supporting Augsburg students in higher ed. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the things that I observe about students in poverty, how they engage broadly with the structures at Augsburg. Our tag is that Augsburg is called. And for me, that calling is really about ensuring that we provide meaningful, true meaningful, deep access to higher education for students who come from marginalized groups. And that means race, it means poverty, it means immigration status. And so a lot of what I think about is how, what actual real access looks like for students. So I want to take a couple of minutes and talk about how we measure poverty in higher ed and at Augsburg. And I want to preface this by saying that I think that measuring poverty is a really challenging thing, because we can talk about who has books and who has food and who has housing. Measures don't capture the lived experience of poverty. They don't capture these sort of entrenched values, the psychological toll. And we tend to talk about those numbers in isolation. So we talk about over here students who don't have books, and then over here students who don't have housing. We're going to talk about those things together as one kind of linked up group and understand how that really impacts access to the classroom. So let's just talk numbers for a minute. At Augsburg, we have probably 4 kind of primary ways that we measure poverty, or low income status is the kind of nice term that we use. One is Pell eligibility, which is a federal grant program, but 50% of any incoming of undergraduate students at Augsburg is Pell eligible, which means they have lower family income and they're eligible for production grants. We do a survey every 24 months or so to figure out how many students are missing books. The surveys are pretty consistent that about 20% of our students, respondents anyway, are missing at least one required text for every semester. And we hear stories from the bookstore about students sitting in the bookstore and reading a book off the shelf before they go to class. Things like that. So we know that books are a problem. We've measured or asked students to talk to us about their housing. In the 2015 health survey that we did, which was a really comprehensive survey, it had about 700 undergrad respondents. Only about 5 or 6% of students reported that they were homeless. This number seems likely to be underreported based on national trend data. However, 36% of the respondents in that survey said that they, at some point in the last 12 months, were concerned that they would run out of food before they had money to buy the next set of groceries. So we have these kind of 4 data points. They match up with national data points. There's a pretty new research lab in Madison called the Hope Lab. It's run by Sarah Ross, who has done a lot of research in the area of student poverty. And her numbers pretty much line up. So they just did like 20,000 student survey of community colleges. And they found that, that about between 30 and 50% of respondents in those surveys reported that they were missing books, that they were housing unstable, that they were. So those numbers kind of line up with who our students are. The first thing that I want to ask faculty to do is to be familiar with the resources we have on campus. They're called these issues. We have a food pantry. We have campus kitchens where students can sign up. They go to the food recovery program. They get meals for volunteering. We have emergency funds to buy books. We have a housing program where students can sign up. I actually think we're not full this semester. They can get, when we have empty dorms, they can get housing space in the dorms. We have meal plans attached to that. Our food vendor has been a really amazing partner in that. We have emergency meals for students. So we have institutional resources around these things. And the first thing that I want to ask is to make sure that these things are in your syllabi. Students shouldn't have to disclose to us or come to us and say, I couldn't eat, or I'm homeless, or I don't have my books. The information should be transparent so they can find this for themselves. So please, as you are able, make sure that information is disseminated so that students can navigate this for themselves.
Yeah. Can I ask a question? Your numbers, I'm assuming, are day students?
They are day students.
Have you done anything with AU or RN students? Because I'm assuming we have situations.
So the resources are available to all Augsburg students. The data, so the national data is specifically from the survey of community colleges. Our data is specifically from data. Although the book survey actually goes to all students.
Okay.
Is there any stuff to put in our syllabi? Is there going to create
Yeah, absolutely. So I didn't do a presentation, and when Tim walked in, he said, "You don't have a presentation?" And I said, "No, it's just me." So we have a website called Augie Basics. Super simple, Augie Basics. We have all of our stuff housed there: the equity housing, the food, books, emergency funds, the whole thing. So Augie Basics, direct the student there. Laura, did you have a question?
I have the same question.
Okay, great. Thank you. Augie Basics, super simple.
Is that on the A to Z? Where is Augie Basics?
It's on A to Z. It's under Student Affairs. It's on their website. You can just put it in on the search bar. Augie Basics. It's also listed in the yeah. Okay. So so I want to pivot now. So we have sort of these structural things, and we use institutional resources to solve this as much as we can. We work closely with students so they get hooked up with local community resources. We cannot solve all of these problems. So we work really hard to get students hooked up with the right kind of community resources. We support students in applying for SNAP. We support students in applying for housing. So we do these things. But I want to take the rest of the time, actually. That's
That's really nice.
So I want to pivot though. So we have these sort of like basic needs things, and we have come up with imperfect but relatively good solutions to try to kind of navigate those things. But I want to talk about the kind of hidden structures of poverty that students experience in our classroom, walking around campus, etc. And I want to talk about three things. I want to talk about the way that we use language and structure to erase or obscure issues of class on campus. I want to talk about how we communicate our class values based on the behaviors that we expect from students and the ways in which we question behaviors that students do or exhibit, and the ways in which we subtly communicate to students our class-based values around behavior. And I want to talk about the ways in which we sort of perpetuate shame around class by the values that we communicate to students. So I have a quote from Bell Hooks because I know some of you have been in the book group and read the book Class Matters. So she says at one point, you know, we give financial aid and academic support to students, and when they drop out, we say they weren't ready to be here. And we don't question the psychological toll that students suffer from having to assimilate in ways that make them surrender their values. And I think that's a really good frame for us to think about what are we really asking of students when they do. So I have a couple of examples. So taking the kind of language question. Cost of textbooks, right? We talk about this all the time. And I guarantee that 50% of the time when I bring up textbook affordability with a faculty member, what I hear is, yes, but I need to pick the right book because of academic freedom. And I always think to myself, yes, and here's the deal. When you have a $70 textbook, which for me, I think a $70 textbook, that seems reasonable, right? It's in a bookstore, you can have a bookstore account, we put 2 copies on reserve. A student comes to you at the end of October and says, I don't have the textbook, what should I do? And I just talked to a faculty member on Monday who said, the first thing I said was, it's only $70. And then this person stopped themselves and said, okay, wait a minute, that was the wrong thing to say. There's 2 copies unreserved. And I said, that's great. And here's the problem for me is that I just met with a student who is working off campus. She has to. She has to take the bus 3 hours a day total to get to campus, get to her job, do all those things. What that does is that she misses the meal hours through the food service. So she's essentially food unstable. And what we've done is we've given her a bus pass so she can use the bus to do all of this walk around. And then we say, for your job, where you're working 4 hours a day and doing all of this stuff, you have to spend $70 on this textbook. We need to interrogate the $70 textbook. We need to question, is that the right course material? Is there a different way to access that information? Is the information freely available in some way? I'm not saying academic freedom doesn't matter. Please don't like walk out and be like, Katie doesn't support academic freedom. What I'm asking for, though, is a deeper questioning of where is information available to students? Is it only in the $70 textbook? Because that book is the barrier to access for students. It's not just a barrier because they don't get the information, but it communicates to them a set of class values around you don't have enough money to be here, and you shouldn't be here. So it isn't just like, what is the book, and are you learning, and are you reading the book and turning your assignments? But it's this subtler message around you have to hit this class standard in order to be here, in order to access it. So I want us to think if we can, there's no easy answers. There's no sort of do these 3 things and then we'll fix poverty at Augsburg. Each of us has to attend to this in our settings, whether that's administratively, whether it's in the classroom. Question what true access means for students. And when a student doesn't have access, how is that communicating a set of values around poverty, around finances, around real access to higher ed? Behavior. So this is not going to be popular, but we expect certain behaviors from students. We expect them to use titles. We expect them to be on time in class. We expect them to do these things. We all sort of know like what a model student is. A lot of those models are class-based. The understanding of what a title is and when and how and why you should use it. The understanding of how to engage with authority in a particular way. The understanding of how to engage in the power structure of the classroom in a particular way. I'm not saying students shouldn't use titles. However, we should question, or at least think through, what kind of class values we communicate to the different students in our settings when we sort of say, well, this is how good students behave. Good students shouldn't necessarily be tied to a certain kind of behavior. That's a set of class values. And we should decouple those and think through what is the behavior necessary to be successful in my classroom, and how will students understand it? So the last thing I want to talk about is another Bell Hooks quote. And she says that if we live with the myth that class mobility is open to everyone, we no longer have to worry about communal sharing because people can move up if they work hard. And I feel like that's a lot of what we kind of talk about on this campus. Like, you come to Augsburg to make a better life for yourself, to make a better place for your family. We don't talk really, though, about what are the barriers to class access and what are the values around class for our students. So I want to leave you with a couple of things to think about in whatever role or setting you engage in on campus related to poverty, related to class status, and how students engage. I want us to truly question the cost of it, to not be blind to what things cost. I want us to question whether students can truly get the things even when we think they don't cost very much. You know, does a student truly have access to the cafeteria if they have to be on the bus at certain hours and they can't, literally miss the meal service hours? Do they really have access to the classroom if they can't buy the $70? Those things. I want us to question the language and behavior that we expect from students. And not that we shouldn't have expectations, but why do we expect those things? Are we communicating a set of class values? In which case we need to be clear with students about what it is that we're doing so that they have some chance to conform to what we expect. As much as we can, and I feel a challenge about saying this because I have not lived in poverty, and so I can only do this imperfectly. But as much as we can, I think that we need to understand the way poverty and class might influence the things that we're asking students to do. So, that requires taking a pause and saying, is there some deeper reason why a student is behaving this way, engaging this way? Coming back to Bell Hooks, what is the psychological toll that a student is experiencing potentially around trying to engage in a middle class system, which is what we are, when that is not their initial value system? What are the class expectations of this institution and of our individual lives? So none of those are easy answers, and we each have to kind of grapple with those on our own. I don't want to leave you thinking that our students are sad or that they are snowflakes, to use the sort of disgusting vernacular term that is in our kind of consciousness, because they are not. Our students have grit, and that's actually how they ended up here. I think it is on us to question our language and our structures and the ways in which those things communicate class status and the ways in which they create barriers for students in poverty, beyond the kind of easily measured who's Pell eligible, who doesn't have books, but these deeper kind of structures around how we more deeply engage with poverty. So that's my time. I'm so grateful to have colleagues like this. I was at a conference 2 weeks ago of similarly situated schools, and we gave a presentation about Augsburg, and listening to everybody else, it was clear that we are doing fundamentally different work than other institutions. We are engaging with this in a totally different way that is authentic, that is deep. And I feel really humbled to have all of you as colleagues. So I'm supposed to invite you to the faculty meeting, so so feel free to attend the faculty meeting. Thank you so much.